And the reason everyone already knows is that those at the top rise and those at the bottom fall. Jokes aside, today we will learn a very important lesson about why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You might think it has something to do with exploitation on their part or something similar, but it's not quite like that. One of the reasons why the poor get poorer is their mentality and lack of knowledge. Also, let's open a quotation mark here, the printing of paper money well. Stay until the end of the video, and I'll explain it better. But before that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Did you subscribe? Then let's start. Do you know why rich people become richer and poor people become poorer? The situation is as follows. Nowadays, you must make some type of investment. The rich invest and thus further expand their earnings and wealth. Meanwhile, the less affluent, the poor, who devote themselves exclusively to work to pay off their debts, receive a salary, do not make investments, and end up facing the impacts of inflation, becoming even more disadvantaged. Now, leave your like, activate the bell to stay updated with our content, and share it. This helps us continue creating content on the platform and reach more people. One explanation lies in the Cantillon effect. This phenomenon explains the variation in prices as the money supply changes. The increase in the money supply is the expansion of the monetary base, meaning the increase in the total amount of money in circulation in the country, the artificial creation of money. This happens through a monetary policy decision by central banks. In the past, it wasn't like this. To create more money, the government needed to have the equivalent in gold. But nowadays, money is no longer tied to gold, and there is no limit to the artificial creation of money. When this amount of money increases, the newly created money is not distributed proportionally or at the same speed among everyone. Richard Cantillon, in the 16th century, studied this effect of the unequal increase in the monetary base. By understanding the Cantillon effect, you begin to notice one of the impacts of the interest rate on your finances. The interest rate is essentially the cost of money. When the interest rate is very low, acquiring money through loans becomes economically accessible. A low interest rate acts as a stimulus for the economy, encouraging the pursuit of loans. However, when the interest rate is high, the stimulus for people to seek loans decreases. But it's not just about that. It also makes a significant difference to know who will have priority access to this new money. Suppose you find a machine with the magical power to instantly double the amount of money you have. However, this magical power has a consequence. Everyone else on the planet also doubles their money simultaneously. If this happened, it would basically be as if nothing had changed. Every time you press the button, your money and everyone else's money doubles, along with the prices of everything. To illustrate, imagine you already have $1 million in your hands. You are considering buying a house valued at $1 million and using that capital to acquire it. Then you press the button, and now you have $2 million. So you proceed to buy the house. However, the property now costs double, as everyone on the planet has simultaneously doubled their money. Now suppose a slightly different situation. You find another machine with the magical power to instantly double your money, but with the particularity that everyone else on the planet will only double their amount after a month. In this case, prices would also only double after this period. Now, the advantage is in pressing the button. If you have $1 million, you immediately have $2 million. With that amount, you can buy 2 houses worth $1 million each. Only after a month will everyone else's money double, and when that happens, the market value of your houses will be $2 million each. Notice how the delay in the disparity in the growth of your money compared to others gives you an unfair advantage. Therefore, it is crucial to understand where the newly created money is going when the monetary base increases. Who are the people who will receive this new money initially? There is a theory that argues you are wrong, that it doesn't matter, that money is neutral, and this question makes no difference. This theory claims that when new currency is issued, the market adjusts naturally. When workers realize that the total amount of money in the economy has increased and, consequently, their purchasing power has decreased, they simply request a raise. Some communists claim there is an inclination towards equity. Now, reflect a little. Do you think this makes sense in practice? When you look at your credit card statement, you notice that the bill is constantly growing. The bill increases and you buy fewer items, experiencing discomfort. Then the increase happens abruptly without further questioning. If you have come this far, it means you are enjoying our content, which sets you apart from others who have already left the video because you are interested in learning. Now, let's continue. You're probably aware that in everyday life, things don't work this way. Instinctively, you recognize that the distribution of money in society doesn't follow such a pattern. Richard Cantillon addressed this 300 years ago in such a competent manner that his explanation remains valid to this day. This explanation is recognized as the Cantillon effect and posits that those closest to the centers of political power are the first to receive the newly created money by the government. Unlock wealth in 90 days with the wisdom of a 7,000-year-old wizard. The Wealth Wizard's secrets to be rich. Achieving wealth in 90 days helps you overcome limiting beliefs, reprogram your mind, and set clear goals. This transformative guide, packed with motivational stories and practical exercises, is your path to prosperity. Get it now for the promotional price, available only today. Click on the pinned comment link and start your journey to wealth now. In other words, newly created money is not neutral and is not distributed uniformly to everyone. More often than not, it is directed. When the central bank introduces new money, the first recipients are entities close to the government: large banking institutions, major corporations, and significant investment funds. Receiving this money first makes all the difference because these entities have the opportunity to invest before others. By being the first to invest, they enter assets at relatively low prices. Subsequently, after these investments, the assets appreciate, undergoing price inflation and asset inflation. This price increase resulting from the new money does not occur immediately and uniformly for everyone. People far from the centers of power only receive the money later, putting them at a disadvantage since they only have access to this money after price inflation has already manifested. Understanding the law of supply and demand is crucial to grasping how the Cantillon effect impacts your finances. To fully comprehend the Cantillon effect, it's essential to understand how prices are set in a relatively free market. The determination of prices for any product, including financial assets, stocks, investment funds, real estate, anything, is governed by the law of supply and demand. If there is enormous demand for something and it's difficult to increase production to meet that demand, prices rise. There is heightened competition to acquire that product. Regardless of what it is, it could be a smartphone model or a stock on the stock exchange. You're probably aware that in everyday life, things don't work this way. Instinctively, you recognize that the distribution of money in society doesn't follow such a pattern. Richard Cantillon addressed this 300 years ago in such a competent manner that his explanation remains valid to this day. This explanation is recognized as the Cantillon effect and posits that those closest to the centers of political power are the first to receive the newly created money by the government. In other words, newly created money is not neutral and is not distributed uniformly to everyone. More often than not, it is directed. When the central bank introduces new money, the first recipients are entities close to the government: large banking institutions, major corporations, and significant investment funds. Receiving this money first makes all the difference because these entities have the opportunity to invest before others. By being the first to invest, they enter assets at relatively low prices. Subsequently, after these investments, the assets appreciate, undergoing price inflation and asset inflation. This price increase resulting from the new money does not occur immediately and uniformly for everyone. People far from the centers of power only receive the money later, putting them at a disadvantage since they only have access to this money after price inflation has already manifested. Understanding the law of supply and demand is crucial to grasping how the Cantillon effect impacts your finances. To fully comprehend the Cantillon effect, it's essential to understand how prices are set in a relatively free market. The determination of prices for any product, including financial assets, stocks, investment funds, real estate, anything, is governed by the law of supply and demand. If there is enormous demand for something and it's difficult to increase production to meet that demand, prices rise. There is heightened competition to acquire that product. Regardless of what it is, it could be a smartphone model or a stock on the stock exchange. Many people are eager to buy, and there isn't enough product available to sell. This allows sellers to price higher, and there will still be people willing to purchase. Conversely, when there is a large supply of a product on the market, prices drop because many are interested in selling, triggering intense competition to attract buyers. As observed, when the government injects new money into the market, the first to benefit are the more sophisticated participants with connections and proximity to the government. These market agents have priority access to new lines of credit, enabling early investments. This stimulates demand for certain consumer goods and capital goods, resulting in price increases. These prices rise rapidly, triggering a cascade effect on other prices. The newly introduced money circulates in the market, but only reaches the hands of common people like you and me after prices have already risen. Depending on the most sought-after goods, these acquisitions can lead to inflation in some sectors of the economy, while in other cases they may even cause deflation. An example of this can be seen when the U.S. government acted to mitigate the 2008 economic crisis. Ultimately, for most of the population, almost nothing improved. People might see a nominal increase in their salaries, but with rising prices, purchasing power at best remains the same, and in practice, there may be a loss of purchasing power. In any case, the farther you are from the center of power, the longer it takes for the new money to reach your hands. This is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The new money entering the market dilutes the value of the wealth you work to accumulate. Visualize all the financial assets you have today, all the money you've spent your life accumulating. To illustrate, imagine a glass of lemonade. You squeeze a lemon into a glass and get a concentrated juice that's your wealth. When the government or the central bank introduces new money artificially, it's like pouring water into your glass of juice. Dilution occurs. The first time, a little water doesn't make much difference. It makes the juice slightly less concentrated and less sweet. The second time, the water is so diluted that it has half the flavor it had before. The third time, the glass is already full, and the fourth time, it's practically water. Your wealth becomes completely diluted. This is more or less what happens when the government significantly expands the monetary base. Remember the law of supply and demand, which states that when there is a large supply of a good in the market and demand remains constant, the price decreases. This also happens with your money. To make this more evident, imagine that over a certain period, you manage to accumulate $100,000. Great, it's wealth that has a certain purchasing power. However, the government starts diluting your money by increasing the monetary base, injecting more money into circulation. This circulation starts with those close to the government. The Cantillon effect explains that they are the biggest beneficiaries of the system, termed Cantillionaires. After these super-rich individuals make their investments, the new money starts circulating to the rest of the market. However, the money already has an increased supply and loses its value. Generally, you continue to state that you have $100,000, but this $100,000 no longer has the same purchasing power it had before the generated inflation. Just look at how much you had a few years ago and how much you have today to notice the difference. In the long run, money issuance will devalue the currency, primarily harming those far from the center of power. This is why less fortunate people become poorer, while richer people get richer. This dilution practically represents a confiscation, a significant part of your wealth that ceases to exist, despite your money still being there. Open your bank statement, the number remains the same, but it's a number with lower purchasing power. Bitcoin emerges as a viable and accessible alternative to protect yourself from the Cantillon effect. Until recently, there was almost nothing you could do to protect your wealth from government devaluation. At most, you could take part of your money and buy foreign currency like the dollar. However, even the dollar is a state currency and can still be vulnerable to some arbitrary decision by the U.S. government. Another option would be to invest in gold, but gold is more complex and not viable for most people. The viable and accessible option for everyone now is Bitcoin. Unlike state currencies, Bitcoin does not have a central authority capable of creating new coins and diluting the wealth you worked hard to accumulate. There is no central point of power in Bitcoin that can decide to generate new coins. It's possible to invest in small fractions of Bitcoin with little money and great ease. Although there are price movements in Bitcoin, there is no dilution in your Bitcoins with the unexpected creation of new ones. The issuance of new Bitcoins follows rules previously established and known to everyone, ensuring that Bitcoin is a scarce asset. No matter what happens, only 21 million units of Bitcoin will be issued in total. After that point, no new Bitcoins will be generated. This ensures that your money won't suffer dilution by increasing the monetary base. The Cantillon effect does not apply to Bitcoin since it's impossible for anyone to be close to a center of power in a decentralized network. Bitcoin stands out for equality, unlike state currencies that result in inequalities due to the Cantillon effect. If you want to protect at least part of your money against these inequalities, learning more about Bitcoin and investing as soon as possible is a smart choice. The video is coming to an end, but don't forget that our discussion continues in the comments. Please let me know what you think about what we discussed here today. I'm signing off now, and see you next time.